That's an important point.
This is, because let me just finish. This thing, the Hindu claim to the Garbhagriha, which was, I think, at the core of the Mandir Wahi Banayenge agitation, has been upheld.
Yes.
For different reasons.
Yes.
At the same time, the fact that the Muslims too, by virtue of namaz being read there for a long time, etc., have also been given a claim. I think it is now incumbent on the political process to start. And for Hindus, who I think the verdict is slightly tilted in favor of the Hindus.
You're saying the political process has to now try to look for...
I believe that the Hindus must have now a sense of magnanimity, make a unilateral offer to the Muslim community, build the mosque there, except in those two areas which are demarcated, and we will help you with all possible assistance.
You want to make a quick retort to that, Yogendra, and then I want to go to Mr. Jilani.
Since I was one of those who was saying till yesterday, as Swapn said, about that judgment should come, and I've said today again, any judgment is better than no judgment. But why is the High Court judgment is some kind of a challenge to constitutionalism? Because of the kind of reasoning that we get. You do not look at judicial verdicts only for what kind of apportioning they do. You look at them for reasoning they offer, and I'm afraid there are two or three questions.
It's not about you suggesting that because the Sunni Waqf Board claim has not been upheld, hence constitution has not been upheld.
Certainly
You're worried about the reasoning that some of the judges have given.
We haven't got the reasoning. We haven't really gone through the...
Is there any specific reasoning that troubles you?
There are three things that would come up again and again. One is the reliance on that very controversial report of the Archaeological Survey of India,
which said that there was a temple on the site before 1528
That's right.
where the mosque was built.
Two judges completely believe it. Even the third partially goes by that.
Yes.
Second is jumping from belief, saying that Hindus believe that this was the place where Lord Ram was born, going from there to legal title. This is something which is bound to trouble people. And third is a certain unspoken reluctance to go against status quo in possession, which happens to be there. This is a reluctance which has not come today. Unfortunately, it's been there for the last 50 years. But you expect at least judiciary to be able to take it on.
I'm going to get Mr. Swami to respond, but I want to get Jilani Sahib. Jilani Sahib, if what Swapan Dasgupta is saying, that Hindus must show magnanimity at a moment like this and allow Muslims to construct a mosque on that one-third land as so demarcated, do you believe Muslims can also show similar magnanimity, since all three judges seem to be accepting that the Garbhagriha is where the Ram Janmasthan is? So, is that process at all possible?
You see, that kindly realize our position.
Yes.
Their findings are based, just as Mr. Yogen has said, that Hindus believe. One judge says, for few decades before 1949, we will say before Supreme Court that to believe something, Hindus believe only for few decades before 1949, then my mosque can be taken away. It is impossible. But mosque can be taken away if there was a belief for the last 500 years. The judge has not said so. Therefore, kindly permit us to go to Supreme Court to assert our legal rights, to assert before the Supreme Court that what law is being laid down.
Sure.
Mr. Yogen is very right. That you are laying the law for future generations. It is not only a question of a Babri mosque or one mosque. Right. It is a question of future generations. Therefore,
what is your worry?
Go to Supreme Court.
What is your worry for future? No. What is your worry, Mr. Jilani? Sorry to interrupt. What is your specific worry for future generations?
Tomorrow, anywhere you will say tomorrow it will leave the Idgah, Mosque of Mathura. It is our belief. You will again say leave the Jama Masjid. It is our belief. You will again say leave the Mathura Mosque, Banaras Mosque. It is our belief. On belief it is set for the last 50 years.
Right.
So my submission is that no belief of 50, 100 years can be said to be the Astha of a religion. Something, the custom has to be for generations, for centuries together. Judge's finding is there.
Right.
So we have to challenge it that this is not the proper way and this is illegal way.
Okay.
Kindly permit us to go to Supreme Court.
Okay. Subramanian Swami, respond to that. That there is this notion of belief and faith. That the Hindus have the faith that this is Ram Janmasthan. Muslims equally strongly seem to believe that there was a mosque where namaz was read for 450 years. Now, in that situation, this whole notion of faith, when it comes into the legal process, does become complicated.
No, but the mosque is not the same as the temple. Mosque, I'm sorry, you can read namaz anywhere. You read it on railway platform, you read it on the aeroplane. It has been... No, you can... I am not talking about puja. I am talking about prana pratishtha puja. which is where the idol is put there, the Lord comes there. So that's why Lord Ram has been accepted as one of the juristic personalities in the title suit.
That's an interesting point. I want to bring in Ashok Desai there. What the court seems to have accepted, Mr. Desai, is that Ram Lalla itself is a juristic personality in itself. 1/3 of the land is essentially be given to Ram Lalla. Is that something which you believe is challengeable, or do you accept that?
No. I think in India we have a special law under which the idol itself can be a juris persona, and you can file a suit in the name of Hanuman at a certain temple through the pujari. So Ram Lalla can be a plaintiff. But I want to ask you a basic question.
Yes.
Is it possible to think of a settlement with Mr. Gilani on one side and Subramaniam Swamy on the other? They both have opposite views, well-meaning but directly opposite. The only way to settle this matter is when the matter goes to the Supreme Court, and parties, which will itself take a year or two,
yes,
because the records are extremely heavy, the parties start their argument, and it is at that point of time that when they are dealing with actual issues that the good offices of the judges might help a settlement.
Okay.
Otherwise, you will have large number of people agreeing out of goodwill, and equally large number of people taking extreme stands on both the sides.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Owaisi. Mr. Owaisi, extreme stand, I come back to it. Extreme stands, maximalist positions, yes. Constitutional positions which Yogendra reaffirms, yes. But within all that, don't you think that a solution is possible for a new India? Look around you. There is an India which wants this issue resolved, which wants to move beyond Ayodhya. There is calm across the country. They would like to move beyond the issue. Isn't this an opportunity, in a sense, to be with the tide of new India?
Who's stopping India from developing? Why do you put this burden of secularism always on the Muslim shoulders? For last 60 years, people like you have been telling us, no, secularism has to be kept alive by us.
Yes.
I mean, who's stopping the nation to grow? You have an eminent cephalogist sitting beside you. Kindly ask him that what has been the share of development of Muslims in India? I mean, did we say we should not be developed? Of course, India should develop. India should become strong.
Yes.
But a wrong has been done to me on 6th of December 1992. And the whole world has seen it, and this has to be corrected. So I fail to, Rajdeep, I fail to understand that because India has to progress, I should follow your line of thinking. I should allow my rights to be trampled. I should allow a grand Ram temple to be constructed over there. I should be forced to take that 1/3 piece of land and be happy in that. No. I will not accept that.
That's an important point somewhere which is coming out, Mahesh Jethmalani, that 6th December 1992, which many believe was a dark day for Indian democracy. Even Mr. L.K. Advani has said he was very saddened by it. Some believe has now been legitimized. That ab initio, what was seen as an illegal act, is now being legalized and legitimized. That's where I think Owaisi is coming from. That's where the Muslim sense of grievance is coming from. How would you respond to that?
Well, there are two apprehensions, and prima facie, they seem to be legitimate, voiced by Mr. Owaisi and by Mr. Gilani. One is that, somehow or the other, this judgment validates what happened on the 6th of December 1992. That's not true. That has a history of its own. This is a title suit. I have to emphasize, this is the right to ownership of the land on which the disputed structure stood on. The Muslims have, unfortunately for them, been non-suited on the ground of limitation. But that doesn't validate the demolition. They mustn't forget that the criminal cases pertaining to those who were responsible for bringing down that structure is very much pending. I mean, it's taken an inordinate amount of time. There's no doubt about that. But then delay is endemic to our system, unfortunately. But that it's not validated at all. The criminal prosecutions go on. Secondly, then an apprehension was voiced that, this will lay a precedent for the future. But that's not correct. We have in place in 1991 itself the Places of Worship Act. By Section 5 of that Act, only the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid dispute was exempted from those provisions.
Right.
Otherwise, the law is in this country that as structures stood, religious places stood, on the 15th of August 1957, their character will not be changed. They stand protected. So if there was a mosque in 15 January 1947, it will continue to remain a mosque. It will not change its character. So for all other structures in dispute, if they are in dispute, the Places of Worship Act protects them.
Right.
The exemption was this, and it has been resolved. So the two apprehensions voiced by Mr. Gilani and by Mr. Owaisi are both actually unfounded, and they're taken care of.
Okay.
I would actually request them to ponder about this judgment, particularly since they've been non-suited on the ground of limitation. I know they feel very aggrieved, and Mr. Gilani has been very temperate in his statements. I respect him. He's respected the judgment and said, I'll go and appeal. But he must equally ponder that he's been given 1/3 of the land, and the Allahabad High Court gives him a formula whereby he can build a mosque side by side.
Yes, Mr. Owaisi.
Then you will get they'll appeal, the Hindus will cross appeal. And
Rajdeep, Mr. Jetwalani should know that a commitment was given to the Supreme Court, to the National Integration Council, that we will not touch the structure. All law is there. But law is used more in violation. Blatant violation is done.
But there's a criminal suit. There's a criminal suit pending on that. There's a criminal suit. I think we have to make the distinction.
I can very much say that even when I leave this world and all of us leave this world, those cases will be continued.
Right. Okay.
There's no guarantee that those cases will be solved in my lifetime.
We should all be lobbying with the government for appointing more judges and swifter justice.
Okay, let's stay focused. Yes, Subramaniam Swamy. There is that sense. If you need a settlement, our focus is how do you get a closure. A closure can only come when both communities don't see it as a defeat. Both see it somewhere as a negotiated settlement. You can't have a sense of triumphalism on one side and defeatism on the other. How do you come out of it? How do you come out of that trap?
First of all, you have to separate the unauthorized destruction of the masjid from the right of any government to acquire a masjid and demolish it. For example, Saudi Arabia acquired the masjid where Muhammad himself used to read namaz and destructed it and built a road.
Right.
So the masjid can be acquired and removed. The grievance of the Muslim community might be is of course, I think, arising out of what happened 6th December 1992. That has to be addressed. I am not denying that fact. And
you accept that?
Of course,
you accept that will have to be addressed. You cannot have a negotiated settlement till what happened on December 6, 1992 is addressed.
It was an unauthorized act. Who did it, I can't say. But for that there's a criminal case going on.
Okay, point taken. I think you make an important...
But I will not be party to any decision which allows a masjid to be built in Ram Janmabhoomi.
Okay, that is part of closure. Closure involves that some of the wounds which were set in from December 92 are also resolved. Today's judgment doesn't quite do that.
No, I'm very puzzled. Because what was billed as a title suit, in other words, we were supposed to know who owns the land, and I think there was an expectation, perhaps rightly or wrongly, from the Sunni Waqf Board that the judges will rule in their favor on that. Now there's been a unanimous judgment that the title suit, the Sunni Waqf Board case, has been dismissed unanimously.
Yes.
Now after that, to raise questions of constitutionalism, to raise questions of, what happened on December 6, 1992, whether the status of minorities, etc., it's to my mind enlarging the scope and preventing a more focused resolution.
You're saying keep the focus on the title suit, look at it as a title.
I'm just saying that this has given us a window of opportunity.
Okay.
It's enormous. Political parties are responding to what they see as the prevailing mood in the country, which is to move beyond sectarian discord. And there's also a formula. Maybe that formula has to be tweaked a little bit, which can be done through negotiations. But this is the right time to enter into a meaningful negotiation.
Timing is often important, Yogendra. Is this perhaps the right time? In terms of the fact, the mood of the nation. The mood of the nation clearly is to move beyond. I mentioned this early in the morning, the difference between 92 and 2010. The Sensex then was 3,500, it's now 20,000. The economy was growing at 3.5%, now it's growing at 9%. Indians are aspirational, there's a new India emerging. This perhaps in terms of timing could be the right time for this kind of negotiated settlement.